Welcome, everybody. I am so excited about being here in person. Like, this has been way too long. My name is Allison Jacobson. For those of you who don't know me, I live in Wilton, Connecticut.
I not know you.
She's the bomb.com if you don't know her.
And I am a coach for women in midlife who are ready to get past fear and self-doubt and start living life the way they want to on their terms, happy and abundantly and successfully. Because we've given that up for so many years in the roles we've had as mom, as caregiver, as single mom, whatever it is. And this is our second chapter. This is our time in life. I also have a Facebook group, Midlife Mavericks. Join it, please, because I think that especially as women at this point, we don't have the support in real life that we need. I mean, we may have husbands, we may have partners, but it's not that collective feminine power. And that's why I started that. I want to save space for women to be who they want to be vulnerable, and to do what they want to do and grow and become who they're meant to be. So, having said that, I want to do a little exercise. I want you all, you're going to ask you to close your eyes, and you're going to breathe in, and then you're going to breathe out all of the negative energy, all of the toxic shit that happened today, and just let it go. And then I want you to breathe in this power that we're standing in, who we are right now, and how we support each other. Okay. So, having said all that, thank you for coming, because I think most of you know, you saw why we were doing this, and this is about money stories. And damn, money? I had lunch with somebody today who said, it is one of the scariest things for women. We either do one thing, we just bury our heads and we don't want to know what our money situation is, or we just, spend money, or we're scared to death of money. And I think the problem happened in our generation. We weren't encouraged in math and finance. That was just not for us. And thank God today, I think with STEM, more young women are talking about science and math, but that wasn't our thing. And so we gave up that power. And that's really not. So today, being here tells me that you're ready to step into that power and get the confidence you need to understand, because all it is knowledge is power. And if we start talking about money and we start unraveling all of those stories we have, we can actually start feeling better and feeling more comfortable. And, Tracy, my wonderful partner here in this, she is a money coach. She's a financial advisor, and she works specifically with women to get past.
Financial therapist. I don't actually work with, I don't invest money.
So financial therapist. I like the money coach too. Yes.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And, I know that fear. Okay, so my story, for those of you who don't know me, is I went through a really bad divorce. Is there any other kind? I went through a really bad divorce about 10 years ago now. Because of that, I had to declare bankruptcy because Mama was making the money and he was spending the money. And all the credit cards were in my name. So even though the court said he needs to pay half, credit cards companies didn't care, so it was all on me. So I lost all my money trying to get a divorce. I lost all my money paying off the credit cards, and I couldn't do it. So I had to declare bankruptcy. And that was the most devastating, embarrassing, humiliating thing I had ever done in my life, because that's not how my parents raised me. I was so good with money when I was single and I was responsible, and then this happened, and it was horrible. And I felt devastated. And then I met and married a wonderful man who, unfortunately, 4 weeks after we were married, was diagnosed with primary progressive MS.
Oh my God.
And he went from walking at our wedding to being in a wheelchair full time. So I went from being newly married to being the primary caregiver and financial provider for my husband, my son with intellectual disabilities, my 2 daughters, and my mom. So I was devastated. I literally was in a ball, and I didn't want to look at my money. I was scared to death. And so I just didn't open it up. I pretended. And every time I went to the grocery store, I just prayed to God it would be accepted. I didn't know. It was, and like when you think about it, how stupid is that, right? Like, wouldn't you rather know than just get there and not have the money? Yeah, it's bad. And so fortunately, I started rebuilding, and thank God I am where I am today. But what's interesting is, even though I rebuilt, that old money story stayed with me for years. And even though I had money in my account, I still just didn't want to look at my bank account because that old money story was there. Don't look at it, Allison. You were a failure. You're not going to be able to do it again. You can't handle this. And so it took a lot of work. I had to start working on myself to get past those money stories. I had to start working on personal development, and I started reading Wayne Dyer and Abraham Hicks and Eckhart Tolle, and I just started, Gabby Bernstein is another one, and I started really working on me and getting past that. And one of my first courses I did as a coach was Shut the Fear Up, because you've got to get past that fear. So, thank you for all being here tonight. This is the start. This is when you get to control what your money story is. You get to turn it around. You get to control it and be in control of that next part of your life without anybody else writing that story for you. And you get to learn how to get past those ugly money stories and get a healthy relationship with money. So Tracy's going to talk for a while, and then Peter's going to talk, and we have a very special offer for all of you tonight, which I will come back and say, but I'm going to turn it over to Tracy.
Okay, feel free to refill if I'm not offended at all that you want to get up and get another drink, I swear. I kind of feel like the dentist sometimes, because when people are given my name, they like kind of paralyze and they're like, well, I don't know if I can call her, I don't know if I can do that. I've been working in divorce financial planning for the last 12 years. I primarily focus on, and I didn't want to say divorce because it's not all I do, but I find in Fairfield County so much that's where the lack of education comes from. And so I really decided to build my practice off of helping the spouse that isn't quite as educated as the other, so that they can either get through it as a family, or they get through it on their whatever their next step is after they separate. But I think the one thing that that I think about a lot, and the reason I say financial therapist is because you can go to a therapist and you can go to a financial advisor, but there's a very combined mixture of that, right? And it goes back to life is all about relationships. It's all about relationships, whether it's your spouse or your children or your parents or your friends or whatever. And those relationships sometimes stay with you your whole life, like family, or they come into your life and they do what they're supposed to do and then they leave, right? And the one relationship that stays with you forever is your relationship with money. And I don't think most of us think of that as having a relationship with money, because a relationship is an important thing in our lives, and I think we don't necessarily give it the gravitas that it deserves, regardless of how you live your life, right? So I talk a lot with clients about their money story, and depending on how much they want to get into it, because if they're going to move forward, they have to have some foundation to understand why they do what they do. So just really quickly tonight, I came up with kind of like five tips to help you if you want to know more about your money story, because I think we all need to explore that. I had a client on Friday, and she came in and she's like dragged her feet and dragged her feet and dragged her feet, and then she came in and I said, you know what, Catherine, kudos to you. I have like a treehouse office in Westport. I said, okay, you just walked up 3 flights of stairs, it's pouring rain, and you're here. That's great, right? So we had a great conversation. She was there like an hour and a half. She's not gone 20 minutes, and I get a text that says, I was supposed to go away for the weekend. I canceled. I'm in bed. I have a migraine. I can't believe what I've done with money. And I was like, oh my God, we've gotten so far. But I think we have to realize, like, for every step we take forward, no matter what it is, we have to be okay with stepping back, especially if it's not something that we're comfortable with. And you find me one person that you can sit down and talk to that wants to talk about their money and their bank statement and their investments. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And I'm not saying it needs to, but I feel as women who need to control their lives. I don't care if you're married, divorced, if you've got an inheritance, I don't care. We all have to take control of that. And to me, I'm 58 years old, to me, almost 59, there's two things in life that are really important: money and your health. I'm taking kids and family out of it for a minute because they're kind of the, they're kind of the tough one that's, they could go either way. But if you have money and your health, you have choice and you have opportunity. And we're never going to be younger than we are today. So I think it's really important. I really encourage education for women. Or for even, I had a doctor come to me 3 weeks ago and he said, "Do you work with men?" I go, "Yeah, but they don't usually want to work with me because they know everything." So I think for women, I think we're willing,
Yeah.
we're willing to kind of admit what we don't know. So the 5 tips I have really quick are respect money. So when we're in a relationship, what happens if we don't feel respected? It sucks and you're pissed and you want to figure out why you're not respected, right? So it's the same way with money. Do you love money when you have it in the bank and then all of a sudden your debit card gets denied and you're pissed off? So fuck it, I don't like it, I don't want my money, right? So there's a lot of ways that can happen, but the first thing is in that relationship, you have to respect it. You have to look at it and say, okay, how do I feel when I look at my bank statement? Do I get hives? How do I feel when I look at it? I have a client who can't walk to the mailbox. She cannot walk to the mailbox because she still gets her bills paper. So she cannot walk to the mailbox, and she won't do them electronically. So how do we overcome that and try and get her through that? And y'all, I have not spoken since before COVID, so I'm gonna cheat just a little bit. Okay. The second one is pay attention to it, and that goes back to what I just said. It's all about being mindful, right? It's all about thinking like, I had a client who would go and buy tons and tons of cashmere sweaters, and while she had a lot of money, she wasn't gonna have a lot of money because she spent a lot of money. And I said, I want you to, it's kind of like the Maria Kondo, like, go in that closet, and how do they make you feel now? Like, it's a matter of respecting money. What are you using it for? How is it making you feel? How do you work it in so that you can have a healthy relationship with money, like you want to have a healthy relationship with other people? Okay, hold on. Pay attention to it, right? So this client that came in last week, she's had her head in the sand for a long time. Her husband was a Wall Street executive, made a lot of money, and he went AWOL and became a teacher in Bridgeport. So he now makes $40,000 a year, a teacher in Bridgeport.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
Did he do that after they got divorced?
They're not divorced.
Oh dear.
They're not divorced, they've been living separate, and they decided they weren't gonna get divorced. And so we kind of went through I said, well, show me what you're pulling out of your accounts to live on based on the shortfall you have from your income, right? Because that's the way you start. What do you need? What is your expenses and what's your income? Nobody really wants to deal with that, and I get it. But once you do, it is so powerful, you will never, ever lose it. You will never let that happen again. So that's really important. But anyway, so she said, oh my God, we're spending X number of dollars out of the investment account every month. And I said, well, yeah, did you not know that? She said, no, I had no clue. I said, how long have you all been doing this? She said, well, he's been teaching for close to 7 years. And I said, okay. So they have a Morgan Stanley advisor. They have somebody who's been helping them pull that money out, who never sat them down and said, hold on, time out. You've just gone from making millions of dollars a year to making $40,000 a year, and your wife makes $25,000 a year. What's that gonna look like? So we have to pay attention to our money. Whether that's a good attention or a bad attention, it's okay, but we have to pay attention to it. Don't be afraid of it. I have clients who never handle the money in their family. So they're scared to go and do anything for themselves. Frightened. Like, oh my God, I've never had this kind of money before. Even if it's just $100, right? I have clients where they're never given any money from the spouse, and they control everything. And then my clients will be like, have that shame feeling of how could I have let that happen? I'm college educated, how could I let that happen? And it's like, it's okay, we all do it because we all take roles at different points in our lives. And it's all okay, but it's not okay. And you gotta, and it's hard, because it's hard work. I mean, I have clients that, that they walk in my door for the first time and they do not know how they're gonna put their foot in front of the other to get out, right, to walk outside. And then 6 months later, they're asking me to help them put up an LLC for their company in their maiden name, or, somewhere else where, that they never worked before. So really important. And Allison is to me, she's the poster, not child, but you know what I mean.
That's okay, you can call it that.
But like her story is so inspiring to me because she has survived and she has made choices. And I think for all of us women, that is one thing we have in common. It's like, well, I'll do whatever I need to do to either stop that pain or to make those changes or to, figure out a way where that is not so painful to me that I can carry on. Because I think as we get older, we're all looking for joy and we're all looking for things that can help us simplify our life in a period where nothing is simple. Nothing is simple. I mean, when we were asked tonight to do this on Instagram Live, I'm like, really? Like, I do not want to do Instagram Live. Like, I just want to talk to people in a room. I don't want to do this. So the other thing, my last point is spend time with your money. And what I mean by that is if anyone in this room does not have access to their financial records because they have a spouse who controls it, that's going to be the starting place for you. Because in my opinion, it's fine if you decide to stay home. It's fine if you allow one spouse to take care of the children's health concerns, and if they decide that they're going to take care of the finances. But as a family unit, the one reason that I see what happens in families is when you don't share in knowledge. Not responsibility, but knowledge, right? You don't have to say, oh, I don't want to know how much Apple we have. But I want to know, oh, you bought 500 shares of Apple? It's a partnership. So it shouldn't be a separate entity. If you have children, you're not saying to your husband and not telling him what happened at the doctor with your child who has special needs. You're going home and sitting at dinner and saying, like, let me tell you what happened with Joel today. Here's what happened. But that doesn't happen in finances, especially in Fairfield County. So Allison and I are super excited. We're working on a couple of things that we just want to give people the information, because I can tell you it's so rewarding when somebody can say to you, oh my God, that was so helpful. Who doesn't want to help somebody? We all want to help, right? So how do we do that where it makes the most sense for us, and then we can pay it forward and help other people back? Can you tell I haven't talked in a really long time? So, okay.
All right.
So that's all I think.
So in my coaching, I talk about, I'm one part spirituality, one part practicality. And the spirituality part, I talk a lot about law of attraction. Has anybody heard of law of attraction? Yeah. Okay, good. That's a good part to start with. So in this, she's the practicality, I'm the spirituality. And it's all about getting past those limiting beliefs first. So I told you about my marriage part, but the limiting beliefs for all of us go back to when we were kids, right? So, we are to this point now in our life afraid, embarrassed to say, what do you want? What do you want your life? We started talking about, I want to retire on a beach, I want to retire in a certain type of house, right? I can say that, but we are so afraid to say what we really want for either we think it's too much, we don't deserve it, it's not practical. But think back when we were kids, and these guys will never know this, but does anybody remember when you'd get the big Sears Christmas wish book, and it was a whole Christmas book, and you'd sit there with the Toys R Us book and circling everything you want, right? I'd circle everything in there, and then on top of it, I'd be like, I want a pony, right? Like, we said whatever we wanted. We didn't find any shame or embarrassment, and then we got older, and we stopped saying what we wanted. We have the right to have what we want. We get to call the shots. But we have to first unravel those limiting beliefs. So when I grew up, I adore my mom, and some of you know her, and I you know, she gets written out about a lot. But I grew up in a family where, you know, money was used to pay bills. It was a very blue-collar family I grew up in. You know, we rented an apartment, and we lived within our means, and we were content. And my mom saved, and my mom was practical, and we didn't throw anything away. And there was never a thought of going beyond your means, right? So and I was an entrepreneur, right? And I knew this from the day I was born, but I didn't have any role models for that. And so I felt wrong wanting more. I felt wrong wanting abundance because everybody in my family was like, no, you know, you just be content. That's okay. It literally took me moving across the country to break free of those stories, and I opened my first business. I sold it for high six figures by the time I was 28 years old. I never would have done that had I not broken through those stories. So we have to first unravel those limiting beliefs and start that new story. And then you need to figure out your goal, okay? And one of the things with manifesting is there's two sides to each story. There's the story of money and there's the story of a lack of it. Now, some people, when you're trying to manifest, will say, I want money, right? And you think that's going to happen. But what's the feeling behind it? If you're saying, I want money, but you're still feeling nervous about the money, that's attracting the lack still. You're not in the positive at that point. So you really have to feel it first. And I've told this story, and I swear it's crazy the things I've manifested in my life. And Stephanie is my business partner for over 15 years, and she's seen me through all of it. But when I was at my lowest financially, when I was completely broke, and I really started reading Abraham Hicks and everything, I knew I needed to come from the feeling. And there was one morning I was in the shower, and I just allowed myself to feel I had all the money I needed. And I felt a sense of peace. And I didn't have it yet, but I had the feeling of what it would be like to have that money. And I felt so calm and at peace. And that's when things started changing, and I got gratitude. I was grateful for every penny I found, and I started tracking every dollar I had because there was more abundance than I realized.
You've got to tell the Toyota story. That's my favorite story.
Well, so Hannah's my daughter, and she'll laugh at it. So when I first got divorced, I mean, when I tell you I had no money, I was broke, and my car lease was up, and I'm like, crap, I need a car. And I said, I'm gonna manifest a car. I'm gonna get a car. And my new husband was like, yeah, right. I'm like, oh, no. I'm gonna manifest a car. Now, at that time, I also had a business. I was known as a safety mom, and I do a lot of child safety and all of that. So I went to Toyota of Stanford, and I said, here's the deal. I will shrink wrap my minivan with Stanford Toyota on it and the safety mom if you lease it to me for free for a year. And they did, and I had a free Toyota for a year.
That is awesome.
Yep. I have done more like that. I mean, Stephanie, every time I say I manifest something, she's like, of course you do. Kind of wasn't happy when I'd show up at Miller Driscoll in my safety mom. Oh, that is life. But so you need to have that goal, and it needs to be specific. And what I mean by that is you can't say, I want money, because what the universe hears, that could be $25, that could be $50. I want you to get really specific. How much money do you want, and why do you want the money? What is that money going to bring you, okay? Why do you want $1,000? Why do you want $10,000? What does that money bring you? So that's where you need to start with, okay? Then we need to look at those boundaries. And there's boundaries that are the no's and the boundaries that are the yeses. We have, I always say this, no is a complete sentence, okay? So look at who is in your life and who you're surrounding yourself with. Like I said, there's an energy tonight. If you are surrounding yourself with women or husbands or whoever who are like, broke, I'm never gonna make money, I'm never gonna get a job, this sucks, everything's so expensive, that's bringing your energy down. You need to lift yourself up and put, now you can't get away from your husband sometimes, but you can put up, yeah. You can put up those energetic boundaries and stop that from coming in and see that energizing force field bouncing off you, those vibes, okay? And find your tribe, In our group, Midlife Maverick, we will always raise you up. That's what we're about. But the other thing is to say yes to things, okay? Yes to those things you wanted to do. Yes to starting a business. yes to starting an investment fund, yes to other things that we've said no to because maybe it's inconvenient to someone in our family. Maybe it's inconvenient for you to start a job because who's gonna watch the kids? Or maybe it's inconvenient to start a job because who's gonna cook dinner, okay? You